Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Amberg Tunnels news. What's news in Amberg Tunnel, Amberg Navigator 1.24 and 2.24. So today I'm briefly going to introduce you who is here. But before we start, I want to give you a quick housekeeping. Hang on, does it work here? Where is my presentation? Housekeeping. Um, Questions, please, at the end, not at the end, at the end, or contact us by the email. Some typos here, super start, but never mind. Then we'll have a webinar. It will be recorded, so it will be distributed after the show. Means you will get the whole recording, even with the typos. You'll get everything in one go. Today on the broadcast will be Lee Hannan, our product manager, and me from sales. So it's going to be us two. We have set it for 45 minutes. Hopefully we will. Normally we should be within this 45. Eventually it's going to be a bit less, but that's okay for all of us, I suppose. Thank you for joining us, and I give you a quick an update of the agenda. Um, Just a quick feedback, quick relief review, and quick little insight of the new features. Then I want to give you instructions how to update, just things you have to be aware when you do the update from 23 to 24. Then we'll talk about the tunnel scan. That'll be the part of Lee, most definitely the more important part and my part. The true new value, which the tunnel scan. I'll present you that, by the way. Yeah, and then Lee comes into play, and we'll talk to you about our biggest uh, enhancement of Amberg Tunnel, that IFC import, BIM, the buzzword of the year. It's been around for many, many weeks so far, especially in the in Scandinavian country. I just come back from a trip in US. BIM. Oh, I've heard of BIM, but okay. This is differences between the European way of tunneling and maybe the North American. But that's our first level of IFC import. Lee is going to talk to you a little bit through the workflow. Then Amberg Tunnel Scan, point cloud improvements, general performance improvements, etc., etc. And on the navigator side, the integration of the BLK 360 Generation 2. And also you will have a quick look at that we can now with Amberg Navigator, you can do layer thickness in shafts and many other things. All right, let's start. New release, we had an autumn spring in 2022. So there you saw we integrated the BLK 360 G Generation 1. So we supported that in autumn. And in the meantime, Leica brought out the new Generation 2, which has a different software development kit, different SDK, which led us to redevelop that. It was quite a struggle. It's not so simple just to say, okay, G1 is then this G2. It's not like that. But we have managed, and in the new release, it will be here. Then, okay, we have an improved design exchange via Land XML. In Navigator, we have an enhanced point check and try positioning task, etc., etc. Now, this spring slash summer release, today is the first day of summer, June 21st, the longest day, super. Amberg Tunnel version 2.4, respectively, that's Amberg Tunnel 2.24. So, as I mentioned, 3D model support, initial support for AIFC, improved point cloud performance, massively improved. And in Navigator, which is the version 1.24, we have, like I said, the G2 support and improved manual black and white target picking. Not pixel based, but sub-pixel based this time. And yeah, that's the way, that's the just spring, a quick overview what we've done in spring, in autumn last year, and now in spring. So update instructions quickly. Where do you find? A lot of people come, where can I find it? By the way, we have now improved that you will get a message if your maintenance and support contact is entitled to download the latest software at the moment it's available. There's a new feature in Amberg Tunnel and Navigator. It will automatically check if there is a new version available. So you can then click if, and it will tell you if you're entitled, and then you can click either at the point at the time or delay that download, but it will indicate you, hey, there is a new version. So the Amberg Tunnel does automatically now a version check and gives you the possibility to download right away the new version should you be entitled. So here you find the new version. It's very simple. It is on Amberg Tunnel, like you see in the download part. In the software part, you can download both versions for Tunnel and for Navigator. It will start the file, it will automatically install and ensure that the project data is kept in another folder. It's important for backup issues because it will erase all the project data. So make sure you have the project in a separate folder aside from that Amberg Tunnel folder, and then you have kept all your data and your project apart. One important thing we want to point out is we want your feedback. It's really important for us to get your feedback in terms of, do we have a bug? It's always like this, when you think you have found every bug, the moment somebody starts using it, all of a sudden there's a bug coming up. So please, we want your feedback. We also want a positive feedback. If you say, hey, super cool, that thing, maybe you have another idea, maybe you would have another an analysis, please write us to support.tunnel@amberg.ch, and that will give us the possibility to get in contact with you to analyze what exactly is your feedback. What do you looking for? Why is a problem? So we can quickly find these mistakes if there should be any of these mistakes, and support you in your workflow, in your daily work. So your feedback is highly welcome. Thank you very much. Now, Amberg Tunneslscan, we've put a lot of effort. Just to give you a bit of an idea, what have we done? We have changed a little bit of our pricing structure. I don't want to talk about this. I just want to point out what we have done in the Amberg Tunneslscan Plus. We enhanced it. So today, up till April, mid-April, we had 3 Tunneslscan modules. It was a Tunneslscan Basic, which was really a basic. You have 3D point clouds, which could be analyzed versus a design. And you have the Amberg positioning method and the line scan. These were in that package. Not many people use that. Simple reason, it is definitely not covering all the requirements the clients have these days when it comes to point clouds and analysis and data they would expect out of those point clouds. Then we have the Plus, which we have sold a lot of them. That's measuring versus measured. Layer thickness, for example, we have the Amberg positioning method for repositioning, the sphere for repositioning, black and white as well, line scan, blast route scan, layer thickness and deformation. The blast route, layer thickness, deformation, these are all analysis tools which are within the Plus module from Amberg Tunneslscan. Then we have the Pro. These are special analysis, 3 additional analysis which have become more and more interesting for many of our customers. Undulation, to check the evenness of the surface, bringing in, for example, waterproofing lining. You want to make sure it's not too uneven surface to tour this membrane. So that's a special analysis. Also high resolution scan, where we transform a 3D point cloud into an image in an object. And very important, the cloud to cloud, where we can connect clouds, we can stitch them together. It means you have a reference cloud, and then you can add an unreferenced cloud to the referenced one, and the automatically will reference then the other one. Now, what we've changed here, the Pro does not exist anymore. Today, all these additional 3 are in the package in that very same Amberg Tunneslscan Plus. So we're really adding value to that project, to that product. Amberg Tunneslscan Plus contains almost everything. All of our good analysis are part of that Amberg Tunneslscan Plus module. So really, we added true value for you into that Tunneslscan Plus suite. Yeah, that's from my part. I want to hand over to Lee, and I think we should switch off our cameras now because for bandwidth purposes. So this is my
Yep.
little picture for handover to Lee, and I'll hand it over to Lee. Off to you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Philippe. I will share my screen. Let me know if you see it.
I can see you now.
Yeah.
Yes, it looks like, yep, you're
Oh,
good.
okay. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, we don't have so much time, so I will get going. So the main topic for this release has most certainly been initial support for IFC. So this is a new workflow for importing an IFC file, extracting the relevant geometry, so the surface information from the IFC file, and then using that surface geometry as the theoretical design in Amberg Tunnel. So it's primarily focused on the import of IFC and using that geometry without recreating the theoretical design in Amberg Tunnel. Because as we all know, the associated time and effort and sources of error associated with trying to recreate a design. So we call it initial support for IFC because this is quite a big topic and it's evolving, especially with the advancing of IFC tunnel program and how that will take shape over the coming years. But for the moment, we have a good workflow for taking the data into Amberg Tunnel, creating a theoretical design from the IFC file, and then from there, everything is the same that you would be used to. For example, creating a point cloud analysis or profile analysis and comparing your measurements to the theoretical design. So the workflow, we have introduced two new editors. One editor is at the level of the site, and the second editor is at the level of the construction stage in the project tree. And in a few moments, I will jump across to Amberg Tunnel and show you this in a live demo. On the site level, we have what we call the 3D model files editor. And this is, at the moment, it's like an IFC viewer. So you can import an IFC file, you can view the geometry. So it's only the geometry that we're reading at the moment, not associated other BIM objects like parametric modeling and attribute information and so on. At the moment, it's just the 3D geometry that we're interested in. So this 3D model files editor, it has a 3D view, 3D navigation, also has a file hierarchy view. So this is where you can view the structure and the layering of the IFC file, and a number of different tools for interacting with the model. So the idea is that in an ideal world, you would get the IFC file is going to contain a lot of irrelevant information, and you want to extract the tunnel surface information. So we have a number of tools for you to interact with the model, select, deselect, hide, unhide, and so on. And then ultimately you're going to export the relevant information from this 3D model files editor into the construction stage. And we have had to create a new editor for the construction stage for dealing with these 3D meshes, so the meshes that are extracted from the IFC file. So this workflow deviates quite significantly from the usual workflow of working with 2D theoretical profiles, joining 2D theoretical profiles into theoretical sections, applying the necessary transverse slope, and so on. Because we're working directly with the 3D model, we do away with all of those steps basically. So for that reason, we had to introduce a new construction stage type, which has a new workflow. And this construction stage type, inside it, we have a 3D model design editor. And this is for viewing and managing that data that you extracted in the earlier step from the 3D model files editor. And the two main configurations here are you define the profile type, so whether it's always vertical, like what we see here in this little diagram, or whether they are always perpendicular to the 3D axis. These settings are also in the theoretical sections editor in the usual 2D workflow. The other setting is you specify the unroll centerline. And this is really more applicable for Tunneslscan users, where you are taking a scan and you're unrolling it, or we call it derolling it. So projecting the 3D scan onto a 2D image for creating heat maps and so on. When you unroll this image or this scan to create this image, here you specify where that derolment centerline should be. By default, it's the highest point on the profile, but it also could be above the axis. And this is a setting that you choose here. And at this point, then the analyses are all the same. You can utilize all of the existing analysis, profiles, point clouds, geotechnics, measured versus measured, measured versus design, or some of those special analyses that Philippe mentioned. Okay, and also the reason we're calling it 3D model files editor and not BIM editor or IFC editor is because the idea here is to expand this over the coming releases to read in other industry standard 3D model files, such as maybe Bentley DGN files, Revit files, and so on. Okay, so the 3D model files editor, in its most simple terms, it's like a BIM viewer. You can import any number of IFC files, actually. You can import more than one, and you have here this 3D view and also the file hierarchy view. And regarding the selection tools, what you select here in the 3D view also becomes selected here, and you can also hide and unhide elements as well. For example, if you wanted to hide this layer to expose the layer underneath, because that layer underneath is perhaps the one you want to export into your construction stage. So there are also polygon select tools and a number of other selection tools. And yeah, I mentioned you can also hide and unhide elements. And once you have the relevant information that you want to use as the theoretical design, you can then export. It's the option down here at the bottom of the right-hand side in the standard default template. You can export either what's visible or what you have currently selected into the new 3D construction stage type. And the 3D construction stage type, this 3D model design editor, is very similar in look to the theoretical sections editor. And as I mentioned, it's where you specify the derolment centerline and also the profile type. You can also manage those BIM objects or IFC surfaces that you exported. You can delete them, replace them, sort them by stationing or by name, and so on. So in terms of the two workflows, the standard workflow is we have the theoretical profiles. I mentioned this. Then you join the theoretical profiles to form the sections, the transverse slope, and then block definition for mainly for reporting purposes to export based on block ranges, stationing ranges. But certainly the first two are mandatory to create a basic theoretical design. And if your tunnel has transverse slope, then you need to define that also. So this is the familiar building blocks. With the IFC workflow, then the construction stage looks like this. We really just have two editors. The block definition is the exact same. Again, it's just for reporting purposes, but the 3D model design editor really replaces or is the equivalent to these three combined. And when you are creating your 3D construction stage type, in the previous version, when you right click on a construction stage to add a construction stage, you had just this option. And now there are two options, depending on whether you're working with IFC file or using the usual method. And it's possible you can have one construction stage type that's defined in the normal way. You could have a second construction stage type that's derived from an IFC file, and you can mix and match them. You could even do a compare one to the other, for example. So I will jump to Amberg Tunnel just to show you this really quickly. Here we have a project, just a very simple project, and I will expand the construction node. And here I have created 2 sites. I could have, of course, created only 1 site, but just to keep things simple, I created 2 sites. And the 2D site, we see here, it has underneath the site, we have this 3D model files editor. This is actually empty at the moment because I did not use it. I did not import a IFC file here. Rather, I just built up the theoretical design in the normal steps, creating a horizontal and vertical alignment, and then creating a normal construction stage where we have our profiles, 2D profiles, and then we create our model, our theoretical model. I have the exact same a replica of that, but as an IFC file. So I will just minimize some of these nodes and go to the 3D site. And here I have already imported a model. It's a very simple model. It's 2 models, but it could easily have been just 1. And we can select the relevant information. You can see it's been selected here. You can also resume selection from the file hierarchy view. You can hide the selected to reveal only the other layer, and so on. And then once you're happy with what you have selected or what you have left visible on the screen, you come down here and export to the relevant construction stage. I have already done that. It exports, it depending on your IFC file, but this one would export instantly. But of course, some IFC files could be very large. I've seen ones that are gigabytes in size, so it depends on the amount of geometry. So now I will go to the tube. Also, it's supported for shafts as well. In this case, it's a tube. So we have the exact same axis, and under the design node, I will expand construction stage. We have two construction stages here, and here we have the 3D model design editor. And this is the information that we exported from that previous step. These are the individual elements, so we can remove them, replace them, and most importantly, you're setting the profile type here and the derolment center line. And at this point, you can see here these little green block definitions. They are just optional, of course, these block definitions that I defined based on 10-meter increments, mainly for reporting purposes. And at this point, then everything else is the same. So if I go ahead quickly to the measurements node, here we have some normal profiles in the editor. We have just a point cloud as well, and I have some connected analysis here. So standard measured versus design analysis. It's the exact same as you would be used to with the Tunneslscan with the Profile Plus module. Also, the measured versus design is supported. All of the analysis is supported. Here is an example of layer thickness, so comparing 2 different construction stages. And here is one scan example of the blast round scan, showing the overbreak and the underbreak. So that is the new workflow for working with IFC. I will jump back to the slides, and yeah, that's essentially our new workflow. Just some things to be aware of regarding what sort of geometry is supported and what is not yet currently supported, at least, but it will be supported soon. At the moment, what we require is closed profiles. So here on the left-hand side, you can see the different elements are being selected, and this is in a BIM viewer, not in Amberg Tunnel. And you see when you select an object, it selects the entire loop. This closed profile is necessary at the moment to do all of the analysis in Amberg Tunnel. What you see on the right hand side is currently not supported because of course it's not a closed loop. So this is one of the main factors to consider at the moment. Also, why we're calling it initial support for IFC is for example, for some of these reasons, because we're going to do a lot more with it, but also we are working in the testing phase at the moment of implementing all of the 28 Amberg Navigator tasks to support theoretical designs derived from IFC. So at the moment, it's in version 2.24 and Amberg Navigator 1.24. It's not currently supported, but you can do all of the analysis and work with point clouds and profiles as we just seen. What currently we cannot do is export that theoretical design to Amberg Navigator and do the automatic profile measurements, for example. But that is coming very soon. As I mentioned, we're just in the final stages of testing with that. Okay, so moving on from IFC, but still in the topic of design data, we now have the ability to export design meshes from the theoretical section editor. So this is the normal 2D theoretical section editor. So previously you could export a design point cloud, so like what we see here. And the main purpose of doing this is to do quality checks, maybe in some other authoring software, to compare the model that you have recreated in Amberg Tunnel and compared to what you receive from the designer or the client. Now you can export the surface as a surface file, so OBJ format or PLY format. These are two quite common surface format files. So it's a much cleaner data set for working with. And this now will be expanded in the future. For example, we will soon have the ability to export IFC file, for example, directly from here as well. So yeah, we're really focusing on this IFC and data exchange and interoperability topic. Okay, so for Tunneslscan, we've done quite a lot of work to improve Tunneslscan performance, especially when dealing with high resolution, high density point clouds. So for example, if you consider a medium or a high resolution RTC 360 scan, this can have 100 or 150 up to 150 million points. So now we are rendering and visualizing these point clouds in a much better way. And we can load more points into the editor, which means that it's easier to identify, for example, objects that you want to remove. And in general, it's a cleaner and data set, and it's much more responsive. So we've done quite a bit of work in this area for dealing with these large point clouds. In addition, we have introduced a new high contrast point cloud color scale. So this is, you could see from the previous image, oftentimes even the image can be darker than this, so it can be quite difficult, especially if you need to hand over a cleaned point cloud. But now we have this high contrast view, and it's quite good, especially with the RTC and the BLK. This scan here actually is from a BLK, and you can really identify the bold pockets, for example, or the bold the bolts. And this again is going to be an area of focus going forward to expand this further, to incorporate selection tools based on color scales as well, so that you can easily isolate and remove objects of interest as simply as possible. So this high contrast color scale is enabled by default. You will find it down here in the rendering tab of the options. And of course, you can also always turn back on the default RGB so that you see it as previous versions of Amberg Tunnel. So sticking with Tunneslscan, we have also worked on, this is closely related to that first screenshot I showed with the improved point cloud visualization and rendering. The filters for cleaning the point cloud, especially the design offset filter, which allows you to select points based on deviations from the theoretical design. In the previous version of Amberg Tunnel, every time you entered a new value, it needed to compute all of the deviation values for every point in the point cloud. Now, all of the points deviations are cached. So the very first time you run this design offset filter, it will take a little bit of time, a few seconds, depending on the density of your point cloud, to cache all of these values. But then you can change the values as many times as you like, and it will respond within seconds. And then once you have these points selected, you can, of course, delete them or hide them to do further work, and then unhide them at a later stage. Also, the default behavior of the editors has changed slightly. So now all of the editors, the filters are disabled by default, so that when you open the editor, nothing starts computing straight away when perhaps you did not want it to do that. For Amberg Profile Plus, in the DXF export, so the 2D DXF export, we now preserve, where possible, the geometry of the design layer. So when you export from the analysis, when you export the 2D DXF, it exports in many layers here, such as what we see here. And depending on how many construction stages or additional construction stages you have loaded in the analysis, they will all appear here as different layers. And in the previous version of Amberg Tunnel, it would segment the theoretical design into small segments. And if we look here at the actual source of the theoretical design, here we have almost a semicircle being selected. And now when we look at this in the exported DXF, it's also preserving that almost semicircle. So you can also export the 3D DXFs, but there it's not being preserved. And also it will only be preserved for linear interpolation. So when you're going from one shape to a similar shape of a different size or the same number of elements, there when we have a linear interpolation, it is supported. But when we have a mass center interpolation, so when we're going from one shape to quite a different shape, where mathematically it's not possible to maintain the geometry, in this case it will be segmented as before. So on to some general improvements. In the axis editor, so the horizontal and vertical alignment, up to this point, the expectation was that we would have maybe at most several hundred elements in the editor consisting of straights, arcs, and clotoids. But more and more we're seeing, and we see people modifying their workflow where they're working with alignments that are built up of a series of small straights. And the problem here is that it results in perhaps thousands of elements, like what we see here. We have 2,500 and more elements, all consisting of small 2-meter segments. And when you work with data like this, it would really slow down the whole project, because almost every other editor is connected to the axis in some way. So even opening the point cloud editor could be slow and take too long to respond. Selecting profiles in the analysis can also be affected. So now we are dealing with this much better, where you can the selection is faster, the opening of editors is faster. General improvements we expect you will see across Amberg Tunnel. Okay, and as Philippe mentioned, we've just in the general settings of Amberg Tunnel, you can check for updates. You can do it there, and it will tell you. It will check the dongle to see if you're entitled to run the latest version or not. Just a small change, and you can also access the latest release notes directly from there too. And on the right hand side, you can now disable the 3D overview from opening. So the default behavior up to this point, or in version 2.23, was that when you open Amberg Tunnel, a project, the 3D overview showing all of their tubes and shafts in context would load. And this is typically not a problem, but if you have a very big project, it can take some time to load. And also, if you change something in the project in some other editor, it's necessary for the 3D overview to refresh. So these can slow down the project. And if you are not using the 3D overview on a daily or weekly basis, you can just disable it so that it does not load automatically. But of course, you can open it up like any other editor at any time manually. In Amberg Profile Plus, also one small change to the point info export. So this is the ASCII export. So from the context menu in the measured versus design profile analysis, when you right click and choose export to point information. So this is a single, it's going to be one file, one text file or CSV per profile. It now includes the derolment value in this column here. And again, this derolment value is the distance left or right from this unrollment center line. And again, you specify what that derolment origin is in the construction stage. Now on to Amberg Navigator. So in Amberg Tunnel, when you're defining the tasks, of course, all Amberg Navigator tasks are predefined in the office. So you're just ready to go in the tunnel. Before, the layer thickness scan task was available only for tubes, but now it's available for shafts as well. So you can access it by creating a task that's defined as a shaft, and you will see it in the list now with version 2.24. Okay, so another quite big topic was to support the all new Leica BLK 360. I think that's the official name for it's the generation 2, but the official name is the all new BLK 360. So we have added support directly into Amberg Navigator, and later in the next release we will add direct support for direct import into Amberg Tunnel. So if you're not working with Navigator at all, you're just going to the tunnel, pressing the button, taking the scanner back to the office and importing. That will come soon. But at the moment, we have full support for working with Amberg Navigator. The supported tasks are the usual ones: the blast scan, layer thickness scan, and line scan. And the positioning method is the black and white targets. So picking 3 or more black and white targets and georeferencing the scan in this way. The APM positioning method is not supported, and this is intentionally because we rely, for the APM positioning method, we rely on a calibrated or survey grade tilt compensator to solve the tilt error in a scan. And with this BLK, it's not sufficient for survey grade work. So, but the black and white positioning method is perfectly fine. And in the near future, you can also expect to see also sphere positioning as well in the future. For the black and white positioning method, we have also improved the workflow, and especially regarding the precision to which you can select the center of the target. So typically here, you can see it's quite pixelated because this target is over 25 meters away or more. And of course here it's using the emulator, so I'm clicking with the mouse, but typically in the tunnel you're going to be using your finger to tap. Every time you tap, it zooms in increments. And before, it was only possible to nudge using the left, right, up, down arrow. It was only possible to nudge it based on 1 pixel at a time. And sometimes this was not sufficient because actually by moving it 1 pixel was moving it either too far to the left or too far to the right and so on. So now you can move it at sub pixel level, and also it's possible for there to be a dead pixel, so let's say a missing pixel, and now we can interpolate this missing pixel by considering the 3D points, the coordinates of the surrounding pixels. And of course, then if the three pixels you pick, it will geometrically compare them to your control point list, and if the accuracy criteria is met, then it will give you a solution. And on the right hand side here, now it will give you a residuals. So these in the top, it's showing you the deviation, so the 3D distance from the picked pixel coordinates to your control point list and which control points were used. And down here is an overall accuracy estimation for the complete geometric fit. So this again is more of a sanity check that just comes at the last stage. Okay, and then sticking with Amberg Navigator, we have now a new license, the Amberg Navigator All Tasks license, and this is a flex license, and it consists of all of our 28 tasks, consisting of scanning, stakeout, profiling, 3D geotechnical measurements, documentation tasks for taking photographs and comments and so on. All of these are included in this All Tasks license. It's available as a flex only, and it's all inclusive. So not only does it include all of the 28 Navigator tasks, it also includes Navigator Cloud Sync. So if you have Wi-Fi in the tunnel and you don't want to return to the office with the tablet or with the USB, you can synchronize your point clouds, your profiles, your stored points, your photographs, all directly from Amberg Navigator. Of course, you need the equivalent license on the dongle side back in the office, but if you want to go down this route and you have this all tasks license, you don't need to consider any other optional add-ons. It's all inclusive. And perhaps even more interesting is that with this all tasks license, we have introduced a new total station licensing concept. So you will see here in the license viewer, now there is a line for a total station license. And this does away with our usual approach of where we create a 19-digit instrument key that's bound to the serial number of the device. So if the instrument gets destroyed, the total station, then you will need to get a new key. This is always a problem, for example, in the middle of the night if something gets run over, then there's a problem. This all tasks total station license will work with any compatible Leica instrument. So you do not need to register the serial number. You can switch any instrument you want. And this new total station licensing concept is only available for this all tasks license. The 19-digit key, we see 3 of them here. This is still applicable for any other Navigator license that you buy, for example, buying individual tasks. But with this license, this could be completely empty, and it will work successfully. Okay, Philippe, I think that is everything I wanted to go through. If you want to take over.
Thank you very much, Lee. I'm just hang on. It's a bit it's a bit slow. Hello. Yes, here I am, not in picture, but at least hopefully yeah, here we go. As a in tone. Now I'm here full. Thank you very much, Lee. I really want to stretch on the last part. This all task navigator all tasks. This omitting to have individual licenses for the individual total station gives you so much more flexibility, and this is important because you don't want to have a failure of a total station at Sunday 2 o'clock in the morning and then have to wait until we start working until you get another total station. Just pick another total station you have on site and keep on working. Needless to say, the total stations, all of them would need, of course, a geocom license. That it's important that you be that you know that the total station needs to have a geocom. But if it's a TS15, if it's a TS16, if it is a TS60, MS60, you just go connect it, make it known to the tablet, and off you go working, and you don't have to worry about another license, whatever it is. So it gives you the full flexibility, and this is definitely a true value when you start working at when you have issues on site during an off time. Let's put it this way. Yeah. So thank you very much. We are already 46 minutes into the thing. I just want to switch over. Here we go. Yes. Um, Simple thing. Q&A. Does any one of you have questions right now? Not all at once, please. It's this also a possibility. I mean, if you have we already 2 minutes over, there is also a possibility, of course, to ask us these questions here. You have technical questions, hopefully more than yeah, but whatever. You can write to Lee Hannan at amberg.ch, or you take tunnel.support@amberg.ch. If you have commercial questions, if you want to have a quote, or you have some issues, questions, you can address it to me. And without any further notice, thank you very much for your attendance. This you will get this recording by in about 2 days. It takes some time to download everything, and we will distribute that. So you will have also those people who did not have the chance to attend today will get it automatically. You will have it as well. Thank you very much for your attendance. Wish you a great day, a nice evening, a good continuation of your day, wherever you may sit. Thank you very much, Lee, and thank you very much, everyone, for attending.
Yeah,
See you
thank
later.
you, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.